You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Netanyahu snaps at CNN host as she corners him over suffering in Gaza, based on an article by Tom Bogany. Gaza is not a mysterious tragedy. It is a governed outcome. The premise CNN kept softening. Dana Bash raised the only question that matters here, whether Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel bear responsibility for the suffering in Gaza. That should have been the center of the interview. Instead, the conversation drifted into the familiar haze of war language, digital age handwringing, and moral symmetry. It was a useful example of how elite media often converts a political decision into a diffuse calamity. Netanyahu did not answer as a man describing unavoidable consequences. He answered as the head of a state wielding overwhelming military power, defending every outcome as the necessary byproduct of fighting terrorists. That is not explanation. It is justification. Power has a name. The institutional power in this exchange is not ambiguous. Netanyahu is the prime minister. The IDF is carrying out near-daily airstrikes. Israel has taken over more territory in Gaza. Those are acts of state power, not ambient violence floating in from nowhere. The interview's central evasions matter because they blur agency. Hamas' refusal to disarm is real, and it belongs in the picture. But it does not erase the fact that Israel is choosing the scale, tempo, and geography of destruction. When a government controls the military machine, it does not get to describe the result as if it were weather. Responsibility is not a rhetorical trap. Bash pressed him on whether Israel and he personally bear responsibility for the suffering. That is not a gotcha question. It is the baseline of political accountability. A government that can bomb, occupy, and displace at this scale cannot hide behind abstraction and claim innocence because its opponents are criminals too. Netanyahu's answer was to recast the issue as a test of how New York would respond if attacked from New Jersey, then pivot to graphic atrocity claims about the October 7 attack. That move is deliberate. It shifts the frame from ongoing state conduct to the emotional leverage of prior massacre. It tries to make any scrutiny of Israel's current actions sound like denial of Israeli victimhood. It is a political shield, not a moral argument. The media trap of both sides. CNN's formulation about two sides and Israel becoming a pariah nation is the kind of framing that pretends balance while evacuating responsibility. There are not two equivalent institutional actors here. There is a state with an army, territory, air power, and international backing. There is also a population in Gaza described in the reporting as displaced, overheated, short on care, and short on resources. Calling that a conflict without naming who can stop the bombing, lift the siege conditions, change access, or end the territorial takeover is a way of laundering power into fog. The result is a broadcast ritual where the stronger party gets to perform grievance and the weaker party absorbs the damage. Deliberate harm, presented as complexity. Netanyahu's digital age defense is especially revealing. It suggests that the problem is not what Israel is doing, but how hard it is to explain it in an era of phone cameras and social media. That is upside down. The images are not the cause of the backlash. The images are evidence. What is being defended here is not just military action, but the right of a state to inflict mass suffering and then complain when the public concedes. That is the core distortion. The scandal is not that support is declining. The scandal is that the damage is so visible that the old narrative discipline is breaking. The pattern beneath the exchange. This interview exposed a familiar political pattern. Power commits the harm, power supplies the language, and institutions around power scramble to make the harm sound like an unfortunate misunderstanding. That is how accountability gets diluted before it ever reaches the public. The real story is not that Netanyahu got combative on CNN. It is that a sitting prime minister could openly defend catastrophic state violence, and the soft machinery of elite media still tried to make the discussion revolve around optics, complexity, and balance. That is not neutrality. It is institutional cowardice dressed up as seriousness. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.